Hello and welcome to the special episode on technical writing. Today we are going to discuss the finer points that will come in handy for writing an error-free document. Now let us talk about point of view. Point of view is the writer's relation to the information presented as reflected in the use of grammatical person. The writer usually expresses point of view in first, second or third person personal pronouns. Use of the first person indicates that the writer is a participant or an observer. Use of second or third person indicates that the writer is giving directions, instructions or advice or writing about other people or something impersonal. I will give you some examples. Now the first person example is, I will go to see if anybody is there. Now the second person example is, you go to see if anybody is there. Now here you is explicitly stated, go to see if anybody is there. Now here you is understood in such an instruction. Now the third person example is, he will go and see if anybody is there. Now consider the following sentence revised from an impersonal to a more personal point of view. Although the meaning of the sentence does not change, the revision indicates that people are involved in the communication. Now here comes the example. It is regrettable that the equipment shipped on Friday is unacceptable. And now there is another version of it. I regret that we cannot accept the equipment shipped on Friday. Many people think they should avoid the pronoun I in technical writing. Such practice, however, often leads to awkward sentences with people referring to themselves in the third person as one or as the writer instead of as I. For example, one can only conclude that the absorption rate is too fast. Now here instead we can say, I can only conclude that the absorption rate is too fast. However, do not use the personal point of view when an impersonal point of view would be more appropriate or more effective, because you need to emphasize the subject matter over the writer or the reader. In the following example, it does not help to personalize the situation. In fact, the impersonal version may be more tactful. Now here is the example, and we are taking the personal example. I received objections to my proposal from several of your managers. Now if I present it in an impersonal way, then I can rewrite it as, several managers have raised objections to the proposal. Whether you adopt a personal or an impersonal point of view depends on the purpose and the audience of the document. For example, in an informal email to an associate, you would most likely adopt a personal point of view. However, in a report to a large group, you would probably emphasize the subject by using an impersonal point of view. In company correspondence, use of the pronoun we may be interpreted as reflecting company policy, whereas I clearly reflects personal opinion. Which pronoun to use should be decided according to whether you are speaking for yourself, that is I, or for the company, that is we. Now we come to style. A dictionary definition of the style is the way in which something is said or done as distinguished from its substance. Writers' styles are determined by the way writers think and transfer their thoughts to paper. The way they use words, sentences, images, figures of speech, and so on. A writer's style is the way his or her language functions in particular situations. For example, an email to a friend would be relaxed, even chatty in tone, whereas a job application letter would be more restrained and formal. Obviously, the style appropriate to one situation would not be appropriate to the other. In both situations, the audience, the purpose, and the context determine the manner or style the writer adopts. Beyond an individual's personal style, various kinds of writing have distinct stylistic traits, such as technical writing style. Standard English can be divided into two broad categories of style: formal and informal, according to how it functions in certain situations. Understanding the distinction between formal and informal writing styles helps writers use the appropriate style. We must recognize, however, that no clear-cut line divides the two categories and that some writing may call for a combination of the two. Now we come to formal writing style. A formal writing style can perhaps best be defined by pointing to a certain material that is clearly formal, such as scholarly and scientific articles in professional journals, lectures read at meetings of professional societies, and legal documents. Material written in a formal style is usually the work of a specialist writing to other specialists, or writing that embodies laws or regulations. As a result, the vocabulary is specialized and precise. The writer's tone is impersonal and objective because the subject matter looms larger in writing than does the author's personality. A formal writing style does not use contraction, slang, or dialect. Because the material generally examines complex ideas, the sentence construction may be elaborate. Formal writing need not be dull and lifeless. By using such techniques as the active voice whenever possible, sentence variety, and style subordination, a writer can make formal writing lively and interesting, especially if the subject matter is inherently interesting to readers. Whether you use a formal style in a particular instance depends on your readers and purpose. When writers attempt to force a formal style when it should not be used, their writing is likely to fall victim to affectation, awkwardness, and gobbledygook. I know you are confused by these terms, but you will find their meaning in the glossary. An informal writing style is a relaxed and colloquial way of writing standard English. It is the style found in most personal email and in some business correspondence, non-fiction books of general interest and mass circulation magazines. There is less distance between the writer and the reader because the tone is more personal than in a formal writing style. The vocabulary of an informal writing style is made up of generally familiar rather than unfamiliar words and expressions, although slang and dialect are usually avoided. An informal style approximates the cadence and structure of spoken English while conforming to the grammatical conventions of written English. Writers who consciously attempt to create a distinctive style usually defeat their purpose. Attempting to impress readers with a flashy writing style can lead to affectation. Attempting to impress them with scientific objectivity can produce a style that is dull and lifeless. Technical writing need be neither affected nor dull. It can and should be simple, clear, direct, even interesting. The key is to master basic writing skills and always to keep your readers in mind. What will be both informative and interesting to your readers? When that question is uppermost in your mind as you apply the steps of the writing process, you will achieve an interesting and informative writing style. Now we talk about the tone. Tone is the attitude a writer expresses toward the subject and his or her readers. In workplace writing, tone may range widely depending on the purpose, situation, context, audience, and even the medium of a communication. For example, in an email message to be read only by an associate who is your friend, your tone might be casual. I give example. Your proposal to Smith and Klein is super. We will just need to hammer out the schedule. If we get the contract, I owe you a lunch. Now, in a memo to your manager or superior, however, your tone might be more formal and respectful. Now, this email would look like this. I think your proposal to Smith and Klein is excellent. I have marked a couple of places where I am concerned that we are committing ourselves to a schedule that we might not be able to keep. If I can help in any other way, please let me know. In a message that serves as a report to numerous readers, the tone would be professional, without the more personal style that you would use with an individual reader. Now, this email would look like this. The Smith and Klein proposal appears complete and thorough. Based on our department's evaluation, several small revisions, however, would ensure that the company is not committing itself to an unrealistic schedule. These revisions are marked on the copy of the report attached to this message. Now, you see the difference. The message is same, but the tone is different in all these three different examples. Now, for clarity in long sentences, use a semicolon between two independent clauses connected by a coordinating conjunction. that is and, but, for, or, nor, so, yet. If the clauses are long and contain other punctuation. Now, here is example. The working class mostly comprises individuals like executives, bankers or lawyers, but they form an important vote bank of discerning intellectuals. A semicolon may also be used if any items in a series contain commas. Now, here is an example. Among those present were Amrinder Singh, President of Omega Paper Company, Shweta Bajaj, President of Desire Corporation, and Pushpinder Singh, President of Sahani Tyres. Use parentheses or dashes, not semicolons, to enclose a parenthetical element that contains commas. Now, here is an example. All job classifications, receptionist, secretary, transcriptionist and clerk, will be upgraded this month. Use a colon, not a semicolon, as a mark of anticipation or enumeration. For example, 3 decontamination methods are under consideration. Now, here is a colon that will do the justice. A zeolite resin system, an evaporation system and a filtration system. The conclusion of a document ties the main ideas together and can clinch a final significant point. This final point may, for example, make a prediction or a judgment, summarize the key finding of a study or recommend a course of action. The way you conclude depends on your purpose, the needs of your audience and the context. For example, a lengthy sales proposal might conclude persuasively with a summary of the proposal's salient points and the company's relevant strengths. So, to summarize, we have learnt a lot about the fine nitty-gritties of writing a professional looking technical document. You have learnt about point of view, that is the writer's relation to the information presented as reflected in the use of grammatical person. The writer usually expresses point of view in first, second or third person personal pronouns. Use of first person indicates that the writer is a participant or an observer. We have learnt about style, that a writer's style are determined by the way writers think and transfer their thoughts to paper, the way they use words, sentences, images, figures of speech and so on. Now, a formal writing style can perhaps best be defined by pointing to certain material that is clearly formal, such as scholarly and scientific articles in professional journals, lectures read at meetings of professional societies and legal documents. Whereas an informal writing style is a relaxed and colloquial way of writing standard English. And tone is the attitude a writer expresses towards the subject and his or her readers. In workplace writing, tone may range widely depending on the purpose, situation, context, audience and even the medium of a communication. And we have also learnt a bit about concluding a piece of writing. Thank you so much for watching.